Hi guys, so it's yours truly Jennifer Na Amele Afi Amate here with another one. Finally, I'm ready to share this testimony, this other part of my testimony. It has been so hard. I've thought about it. I shared the testimony on my weed addiction, which was the smallest part. There was an addiction I had before that one, which lasted for so many years. It's been something I struggled with, and I don't know why it's been so difficult to share on it, but it's uh, the addiction that I'm most grateful for to God that He saved me from. So I grew up in an environment where sexual perversion was on the rise. Children as young as 13 years were getting pregnant. There were homosexuals all over. Mothers and daughters were sleeping with the same men. So much was going on. And my dad, being a God-fearing man, it was almost like a pastor. It's just that he didn't have a church, but he would go on Dawn Broadcasting. He was known in the area to be a Christian and a preacher of the word. And he specifically told me that if I were to get pregnant before a certain age, he would disown me. And I know my dad, I know what he is capable of, especially when you cross a line, like when he's already warned you about something and you still go ahead and do it. He told me that if I got pregnant before a certain age, he was going to disown me. So growing up, I loved to read. I read a lot. I also somehow knew that there was not much money at home, so if I was going to, I knew I wouldn't be able to go above a certain level of education, so I poured myself into reading a lot of books, which grew my imagination and how I perceived things. So as an adolescent, I found myself with an addiction. So it all started when um, I started having talks of pornography with friends, and they'll talk about it, they'll give details about it, and most of the girls that I was growing up with then, most of them have experienced sexual, let's say, fornication or had sex. So they'll talk about it, and I have all these imaginations, all these things that have been said about sex, but I can't have sex because if I have sex, I'll get pregnant. And my dad had already warned me that if I should get pregnant, he was going to disown me. So it just so happened that I came across a graphic, and I don't mean to put him out here, but our choir master at that point was living with his brother, and we would go there as young girls and boys all together. Nothing was happening, no sleeping around and all that, but we just go there. And one day I found a graphic in one of their cupboard, and he said it belonged to the brother. I'm sure he wasn't aware what was in that graphic, but when I took that first graphic, I read it, and with the reading that I've done in the past on books and stories, it built my imagination, so I was able to imagine or create image of the things that I was reading. So this graphic was called Ebony, and as the name suggested, ebony, it was filled with very graphic description of sexual situations and happenings. And I don't know if they still produce it. I don't advise it for anybody to go buy. And I read this first graphic, and the things I was reading aligned with what the other girls were saying. And with my mind, I will create imagery of what they are, the stories they are telling. And the way it is, they have to be continual, like they made the stories short, short, short. So in every edition of the graphic, they will tell the story. So they are telling, let's say they are telling a story about a relationship between two people. So today's graphic will have a part of it, and then it's just filled with suspense, and it has so many incidents of sexual actions, and they would detail it, they write it in detail to the minute, to the point, how a leg was raised, how smell that the kiss was given, just very descriptive. And they don't have just one but several um parts. Some are stories, some are people's experiences, and all the graphic was about what? Sex, Ad- advice on sex, people's relationship, just detailed. That's it. So after the first graphic, I found a way of asking him if he had more. So he asked me what was it, and I'm like, oh, if he has more, there's a story in it that has a continuation, and I would like to, see how the story ends. And he asked the brother, and the brother was like, oh, and these were graphics that he's bought over time from long ago, like for years. So he gave me a full load of graphics. And you see, when the enemy is after you, he he also can make a way, but in the wrong direction. Okay, God makes a way in the right direction, and everything God does is for our good. But when you tour the territory of the enemy, he can also seem to make a way, but you see that way, they say there's a way that seems right, but the end is dead. Sorry. And that was the way that the enemy tried to create for me. So I got this bag full of these graphics, which I hid under the bed that I sleep on. It's those bed that you put the foam inside, the mattress inside, so there's space under. So I hid them under there. And every time I'll close from school, I come back. My parents were in another place not far from our home, but she runs a chop bar there, a restaurant there, so she hardly comes to where we sleep. So when she closes, we come to the house. When I close from school, I go there to change, and I go to help my mom. But most of the time I come back, I'm in the room, lock the room, and I'm reading this graphic or magazine, if you call it that. And over time, as this imagery began increasing, I had to find an outlet, and there were so many descriptions in there that even if you didn't know something sexually, you get to know. And this was how my addiction to masturbation, which will later add on pornography, started. I don't intend to make this a very long video, but I was in this from the age of 13, I believe, up until last 5 years ago. I don't, I cannot do the calculation. It was so bad. It was so bad. I read this, I read it over and over again, and that was what led to me wanting to watch pornography with my friends, which I did. And because I still had that fear of my dad abandoning me if I should get pregnant, whilst having all this knowledge of these things that are being described in the graphic, it almost led me on the way of becoming a lesbian at a point when uh, a lady that I was supposed to go evangelize proposed it, until she mentioned a word that struck me, and It got me back to my senses. So I masturbated from that age of 13 till 28. I left home when I was 20 years. And at that point, I got a phone. And that brought in the pornography aspect. I'm telling this as simple as I can, but it was a very serious situation that when I moved from home at the age of 20, I bought this small TV which had the DVD side to it, and I'll buy this cassettes, lock myself in the room, and watch these porns over and over again. I'll masturbate over and over and over to some point where I'll feel dizzy. It led to depression. It led to low self-esteem because with every masturbation I felt guilty. I felt nasty because I was born again when I was 13. I was part of the choir, and then all that came into it, so I knew what was good and what was evil. Yet I became so hooked that I couldn't let go, and that was how I ended up having my first sex, because at that point I was old enough. Yeah, so I started having sex. But then, because I had masturbated so much up until that point, sex wasn't a thing for me. I'd rather please myself than, so I've not had a lot of sexual experience, as in man to woman experience, but I do say that I've had a lot of sex, because I count masturbating yourself also as a sexual act. And I did it so much. Now, I didn't want to have a big opening, so I didn't use stuff like vibrators or other stuff. I simply used my mind, imagine things, and it became so vivid in my mind that even up until now, it's a struggle. My mind does things, okay? But the masturbation aspect of my salvation is so key to me, because I try severally to stop by myself, and I can go like a month without it, and then I fall back into it. It was so deep that even when I got married, I was doing it. And also because the marriage wasn't friendship based, it just happened that we had sex and then I got pregnant, and so that connection wasn't there. So even though we have sex, but and I believe also because I was addicted to this thing, the sex wasn't doing it for me like I would do it for myself. I'm just trying to be as honest as possible here. So that was it. There were times that I would lock myself in the room and be doing this, watching porn, masturbating, watching porn over and over again, that I won't come out or eat or do anything. There are times that my landlord at some point will come and knock to find out whether I am in, if something has happened to me or not. It was an addiction. I now I can say it very lightly that it was bad. It was bad, and it came with all the things that comes with it, until when I decided that I wanted to give my life to Christ. Like, it's not like I decided, because it's his spirit that draws us to him. When the Lord decided to have mercy upon me and deliver me from all these, it's been almost 6 years. I'm going on to 6 years without sex and without masturbation. During that time also, I'd added on smoking of weed, and when God delivered me, he just delivered me like that. It just went like that. Sometimes it shocks me up until now, because now that I'm not having sex, One would think that masturbation would be the way out, but it disgusts me. Ever since then, I've not visited any porn sites. I've not tried to do anything to myself like the way it used to. No, like ever since the weed and masturbation. I think masturbation was the greatest deliverance that I got coming to Christ. It was bad. It was bad. I spent money on credit, buying all kinds of things, made stupid decisions, and all that. And because of that, I couldn't have any reasonable relationship because I was brought up to be independent, to fend for myself, and most of the time growing up back then, the reason why a lot of the ladies were following guys were because they were helping them out in one way. I was working most of the time and fending for myself, and I was masturbating, so I saw a man as a disturbance. Like, what are you going to do for me that uh so I've not had a lot of relationships. I've not had any meaningful relationship. Back then, I just kept one person who, as and when I felt like it, would do something, but it wasn't. I've not had any meaningful relationships in the past due to this activity because I felt I could take care of myself better. But I'm grateful to God for saving me. It still shocked me up until this day because back then there was no porn site that I didn't know. I watched porn of all kinds and had just filled my mind with all kinds of nonsense. And when I started this work, I've had flashbacks. I've had moments where I was tempted. I felt like I could just watch porn, nothing will happen. You know, sometimes as you walk with God and it helps you to a certain point, you feel like, I can handle that, I can do that, I can handle that. But no. For the past 6 years, no sex, no masturbation, no weed, just grace. The Holy Spirit is helping me, and I think He can do it for you too. That's the whole essence of this. He's done it for me. I just still cannot fathom it. Like, I don't feel like it. I don't want to. I think of it sometimes, like, why was I even doing it? Like, what was it? But I can just say my life right now is just the grace of God. He's helped me and He can help you. It doesn't matter what addiction you have, but the Lord has saved me. I wish I could tell you how deep it was, but I think this will suffice. It was an addiction I struggled with. And because I didn't want to use instruments to, I felt it to open me up, I had to use my mind most of the time to, you know, imagine things and create things in my mind. And one thing that it also did was I could look at a man and then take him. I will not sleep with the man, but I take him to my mind, and on my bed I can do things with him. That was another thing that I did. So I wouldn't sleep with you as a man. I mean, I see you, I like you. I just take that and then do whatever I want with it on my own, which may not be the exact same thing. Maybe this man is a size 4, size 5. You take him and you give him what you like, and then let me not go there, but it's a bad thing. And I'm happy that God delivered me from it, and He can deliver you too. It doesn't matter the addiction you are facing. Most people think that it's not as sinful as fornication, but it is. It also opens you up for demonic spirits to, have their way. It leads to so many things. It brings guilt, it brings low self-esteem, it brings memory loss. There's been researches on it. It hurts men in several ways. I don't script this thing, so forgive me if I've blabbed for a very long time. So I'm going to pause here and then bid you adieu. But remember, no matter your addiction, Jesus died for it and he can deliver you as he has done me. It's been 6 years, almost 6 years. No sex, no masturbation. To God be the glory. Until I see you in the next one, stay blessed. You are loved. God bless you. Finally, I've been able to share this. I hope it blessed somebody. Bye.